Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode in our WCW What If series. It is the night after World War III, 1996. If you have not watched that, then you should definitely go back and watch that first before you watch this, because there are going to be some spoilers from it. If you have watched it, you'll know what ended up happening at World War III and what now is the main event for Starrcade out of it. So tonight's show is scheduled to be a good one. We have the television championship on the line as Ron Simmons, who was unjustly taken out of the Battle Royal main event at World War III, is going to be challenging Dean Malenko for the television championship tonight. And we also have word that there is going to be a contract signing tonight between the challenger for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, Bret Hart, and the champion, Randy Savage. The two men will be meeting at the end of the night in a contract signing for their big Starrcade match. So we will have that happening. We open up Nitro this week in front of 15,689 people at the Core State Spectrum, with the obviously ecstatic group known as the Four Horsemen out there in the ring, celebrating the fact that Brian Pillman won World War III last night and now has a guaranteed shot at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship anytime between now and next year's World War III pay-per-view. The four men are, well, really two men. Bagwell and Benoit aren't really saying much, but Pillman and Flair are gloating. They're celebrating about the fact that the plan came to play and that Brian Pillman is the next WCW World Heavyweight Champion for sure whenever he decides to cash it in. This ends up leading to Sting coming out to interrupt the promo, the celebration, if you will. He congratulates Pillman on getting the job done last night. Of course, Sting was the last man eliminated from the Battle Royal, so he does congratulate Pillman on eliminating him, and gives him some advice, though. He does give him some advice. He's kind of talking about how he wants to make sure that Pillman does what's best for his career, not what's best for the Horsemen necessarily. That he wants to make sure that, because he's known Ric Flair for quite some time, many, many years have they gone back and forth at each other, and he knows one thing to be sure: Ric Flair is not happy unless Ric Flair is on top of the mountain himself. So if Brian Pillman honestly thinks that Ric Flair is going to be okay with Pillman winning the championship and not coming after him himself for it, not turning his back on him himself, then Brian Pillman is a naive man. Pillman seems like he's kind of pondering the advice a little bit, kind of at least thinking about it, but Flair, in typical Flair fashion, absolutely takes offense to this. He's getting all frustrated, getting all yelling. He's yelling at Sting, saying that Sting is a crazy, Sting just wants to try to break up the Four Horsemen, and he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, blah, 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 all this and that. And after some back and forth between Sting and Ric Flair, a match is made for tonight between Sting and a member of the Horsemen. It doesn't get revealed which member of the Horsemen is going to be taking him on, but it's going to be a member of the Horsemen taking on Sting here tonight on Nitro. We move on from that to Steve Austin with a promo. He talks about coming up short at World War III, but he says it doesn't matter because he will earn his next shot at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship a different way, even if he has to beat the living hell out of Bret Hart to get it. Obviously still having issues with Bret Hart. This causes, surprisingly from out of nowhere, Paul Levesque to interrupt the promo. Not sure why Paul Levesque was hanging around, but he does. He interrupts the promo. He talks about how Austin doesn't stand a chance against Bret Hart or any member of the New World Order for that matter. Austin looks like he's going to say something, but then just kind of shrugs and starts fighting with Paul Levesque. The two men start brawling throughout the area, in the backstage area that they're in, as security personnel come running in to try to break things up between them. So a brawl happening between Austin and Levesque here, as Paul Levesque kind of sticking up for the New World Order, even if he was, the bad guy for it. And of course, Austin has documented history with not only Levesque, but the entire group. So they're brawling with each other. We'll have to see if that leads to anything in the future. But 100 rated segment, very good stuff there. After that, oh, that kind of sucks. After that, in 9:52, Dean Malenko is able to defeat Ron Simmons by submission with the Texas Cloverleaf, making defense number 3 of the World Television Championship. 63 rating. Both men did not click or do not click with each other, and it showed in their performance, so that kind of sucks. So both men only had 55 in-ring performances. Not the strongest, but you know it is kind of what it is. Wasn't exactly expecting them to not click with each other. If they didn't have that issue, then the two definitely would have had a stronger matchup for sure. But despite Ron Simmons getting the shot at the television championship, he is unable to get the job done against Dean Malenko. After the match, they show some respect for each other, but then they get jumped from behind by Chris Jericho and Lance Storm. Jericho and Storm beat the two men down before Jericho grabs the TV championship and leaves with it once again. Of course, remember, Dean Malenko was able to get the title back at World War III after he chased Jericho out of there. But Jericho is able to get the title back here tonight and leaves with it. However, before he can get away, Roddy Piper shows up and takes the championship. It's one of those things where Jericho is backing up with his back to the backstage area. He's backing up the aisleway with Storm there over and raising the championship up in the air, and all of a sudden the championship gets grabbed from his hand from behind. And there's Roddy Piper standing there with the championship. Jericho pushes Piper and yells at him to give him back the championship, to which point Piper responds by completely decking Chris Jericho. Crowd goes absolutely crazy as Lance Storm tries to take a shot at Piper, and he gets decked as well. Piper goes back in the ring and hands the championship back to Malenko as commentators wonder about where things will go from here. 70 rating for the segment. So Roddy Piper getting physically involved. Apparently after the issues he's had with Luger in the past and you know the issues he had with Jericho before and all that stuff, apparently he's not going to be afraid to throw a punch or two at this point. So he gives the championship back to Dean Malenko, and we're going to have to see where things go from there. After that, the Horsemen are backstage in the locker room discussing who should be taking on Sting tonight. Flair says that there is no discussion to be had. This is after, you know, a minute or so of them kind of arguing with each other. Flair says there's really no discussion to be had, even though the plan went exactly as planned at World War III. One of the men in the room wasn't able to fully stand up, or wasn't able to fully stick to the plan that they had in mind. So tonight it will be the man who did not fully live up to his side of the plan, Marcus Bagwell, taking on Sting. Of course, Bagwell was the only one of the four horsemen, that is, to not qualify for the Battle Royal at World War III. So even though Pillman won it, Bagwell was one of the four who did not qualify for the Battle Royal. Bagwell says he has no problem with that, and he plans to pull off a surprising upset here tonight on Nitro. 90 rating segment, good stuff there. Even if Bagwell did look dreadful in the segment, I'll still take it. But there you go, 90 rating for that. After that, in a match that kind of got thrown from out of nowhere, for some reason, Cactus Jack and the Giant are fighting tonight. And an exceptional matchup that went to a draw, got an 83 rating, so one of the highest matches we've had in recent time. The Giant and Cactus Jack went to double disqualification after Meng ran in and attacked the Giant and also attacked Cactus Jack. 93 from Cactus, 82 from the Giant. Match suffered because there wasn't enough selling shown, obviously. Cactus has a little bit of selling and Giant has no selling, so putting them in a match that's any longer than 2 minutes is going to have an issue with it. But it still got an 83, so I'm not going to complain. But the two men go to double disqualification after Meng ran in and attacked both men. Afterwards, Meng continues on the attack as the commentators wonder why he's going after Cactus Jack as well. Meng stands tall over both men as officials come down to try to stop the attack. So, not sure what happened there, but for some reason Meng decided to attack the Giant and Cactus Jack both. We then have a Dustin Rhodes promo where he expresses disappointment about what happened last night, not getting to go to the Battle Royal at World War III, as he did lose thanks to Paul Levesque's interference. And so he says that whenever Levesque wants to use that title opportunity, he's more than welcome to cause him to fail his NWO buddies when he sends them back to them without the United States Championship. Rhodes then talks about his title defense schedule for next week against Johnny B. Bad, and says that Bad is a heck of a competitor, but that Rhodes will come out on top. So, surprisingly, we find out that Johnny B. Bad is next in line for the United States Championship as he gets a title match next week on Nitro. 99 rating. That should be a pretty good matchup between those two men. Looking forward to seeing who comes out on top with that. And obviously that's a big match planned for Nitro next week, because the United States Championship will be on the line. Then we have a tag team matchup where, this is actually kind of making sense now, I think. Well, actually, no. Medusa got back up to recognizable status, so never mind. Anyway, about a terrible wrestling non-existent crowd heat, Medusa and Megumi Kudo are able to defeat Etsuko Mita and Takako Inoue in 540 when Kudo pins Mita with a Kudo driver. 57 rating for the match. Kudo definitely, quote-unquote, carrying the matchup. Medusa still had a 49, but Kudo with a 9 points higher than Medusa at that point. 57 rating is a really good rating for this tag team matchup here, honestly. But Medusa and Kudo get the victory. Afterwards, they're celebrating their victory, although with a little bit of a look from Medusa to Kudo that Kudo doesn't seem to doesn't seem to see happen. The two women do celebrate, though, as the commentators talk about the rumors of new women making their way to WCW, since it's quickly becoming the premier place to come for women's wrestling in North America. So, a while back, I mentioned about how I thought I was going to start taking a little bit of a backseat. I was going to put the women's division a little bit of a backseat until we got a few more local talent, or like not local talent, but like a few more of the females from the USA that come around. Once we get kind of into the later 90s, a little bit better and all that stuff. But I've kind of since changed my mind about that. And so there are rumors out there. Whether I'm confirming them or denying them is what you can believe that or not. But there are rumors out there that there are some new women making their way to WCW. So we will have to see what happens with that. But kind of the overlooked thing from this segment, though, is that Medusa gives Kudo a little bit of a look. It's one of those looks where it's like kind of keeping her eye on her a little bit. Almost as if, almost as if she has some thoughts going through her head, but it's not enough for anybody to really make notice of it more than anything. So, I don't know. We'll have to see what that means, but Kudo and Medusa are able to celebrate the big victory here on Nitro. Afterwards, in a 100 rated segment, we have Eddie Guerrero backstage. He is a little bit of a disappointment clearly on his face. Gene Okerlund comes up to him, and I forgot to put Gene Okerlund in the segment, so there's that. But Gene Okerlund comes up to him and asks his thoughts about not winning the WCW World Heavyweight Championship last night. Guerrero says that, like Savage said ahead of time, or Savage said before the match, that he'll have plenty of other opportunities, and he really speaks of Savage as a great opponent. He just thought he had that match won last night. Steven Regal interrupts at this time, says that he's disappointed as well. He's disappointed he let somebody like Guerrero beat him for a title match, only to then lose the title match he earned. He says that if he was in that match last night, he would have won the championship for sure. Guerrero takes a little bit of offense to this and steps up to Regal, who just chuckles before walking away, having Guerrero watch him leave. So, some slight issues between Eddie Guerrero and Steven Regal. You never know what's going to happen. It may end up leading to a future matchup between the two. I'm not sure, but Steven Regal apparently not thrilled about the idea that Eddie Guerrero beat him for the opportunity at World War III and then lost said opportunity at World War III. So we'll have to see where that leads to. Then after that, in a unannounced title matchup, we have Jerry Lynn and Sean Waltman, the WCW World Tag Team Champions, defeating the Armstrongs in 644 when Lynn gets Steve Armstrong to submit to a cross armbreaker submission. The NWO team making defense number 2 of their World Tag Team titles. 68 rating for the match. Not too bad there, honestly. 71 from Waltman, 66 from Jerry Lynn. Again, I still keep pointing out the fact, and you guys are going to probably get tired of me saying it, but I keep pointing out the fact that Jerry Lynn at one point was Mr. JL and having 30 in-ring performances, and now he's up to a 66 in-ring performance as one half of the tag team champions. So kind of proof that even somebody who can't really cut that well of promos at all, like Jerry Lynn, who still at this point can't really cut that well of promos at all, can still be built up from a very low level with the right booking. Nevertheless, Waltman and Lynn making defense number 2 of their World Tag Team titles here tonight. After the match, though, as they are celebrating, Harlem Heat come out on the stage. Booker T says that he just spoke with Roddy Piper during that matchup, and it has been made made official, that is, at Starrcade. Harlem Heat will be getting their rematch for the WCW World Tag Team Championships. Waltman and Lynn just kind of laugh about this and taunt them as Harlem Heat make a title motion around their waist, as the commentators talk about how this could shake up any plans the New World Order have in mind. 79 rating for the segment. Good stuff there. So it is official at Starrcade. We will see 2 members of the new, well, not 2 members, but we will see 2 different title matches featuring NWO members, as not only is Bret Hart challenging for the world title, but Jerry Lynn and Sean Waltman of the New World Order will be defending their tag team titles against Harlem Heat. When we go backstage to Roddy Piper's office, when obviously hurt Cactus Jack comes in, Cactus, without any sort of warning and with medical people trying to check on him, gets in, not quite in the face of Piper, but he kind of slams his fist on Piper's desk and says, "I want a match with Meng next week on Nitro." When Piper asks Cactus if he's sure about that, Cactus says that he doesn't know what Meng's problem is, but he's going to find out quickly that not everyone in WCW is afraid of Meng. 99 rated segment here, as Cactus Jack and Meng is set for next week on Nitro. So 2 big matches on Nitro next week so far. We've got the United States Championship matchup, Dustin Rhodes defending against Johnny B. Bad, and now we have Meng and Cactus Jack going at it. So 2 pretty big matches happening next week on Nitro. Then after that, in our match-wise main event of the evening, in a 79 rated matchup, Sting defeats Marcus Bagwell in 909 when Bagwell is disqualified after Ric Flair ran in and attacked Sting, as did Chris Benoit. Brian Pillman, for some reason, not there, but Flair and Benoit come in running in and attacking Sting, leading to the disqualification victory for Sting in a little over 9 minutes. 79 from Sting, 54 from Bagwell. 79 rating for the match itself, which is really good. After the match, Sting is attacked by the Horsemen until Diamond Dallas Page appears from the crowd and helps Sting out. The Horsemen, minus Pillman, end up getting thrown out of the ring as Sting shows a bit of respect to Page for helping him out tonight. Commentators then get word from the back that next week's Nitro main event will be Ric Flair and Vader versus Sting and Diamond Dallas Page. So that should be a very, very much big-time main event, as, of course, Diamond Dallas Page and Ric Flair have been having issues with each other for a few months now, ever since Page turned his back on the Horsemen and kind of threw out the offer to be the 4th Horseman. And, of course, Sting and Vader have been having issues in recent weeks after the attack by Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader on Sting. However, Bam Bam Bigelow is now out with an injury, so Sting can't go after Bigelow, but that actually might be a benefit for him because now Vader won't have anybody to help him out against him. So that should be a very big time main event next week on Nitro. But of course, the show tonight is not done yet, because in a 100 rated segment, we have our big contract signing for Starrcade with Roddy Piper out there to try to moderate the whole thing. Randy Savage and Bret Hart come out for the contract signing. Hart says that Savage is all that stands in the way of the New World Order taking over here in WCW, and that at Starrcade, the final step of the plan will be completed. Savage says that Hart has a point. Savage does stand in his way. And as someone who bleeds WCW through and through, he will do whatever it takes to make sure that the New World Order don't have control here in WCW. So at Starrcade, Hart will feel the full force of the madness, and he will fail to become the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Hart just smirks before saying, "You keep believing that." Both men signed the contract, as is now official. Randy Savage, Bret Hart, Starrcade, for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. 100 rated segment, a very strong way to end Nitro this week. Nitro itself gets a 91 rating, increasing popularity everywhere. Very strong fallout show from World War III. And next week's show for sure looks to be possibly even bigger, especially with that big main event that was announced. But all 3 matches for next week should be good ones. Meng and Cactus, U.S. title on the line, Dustin Rhodes against Johnny B. Bad, and of course the main event, Sting and Diamond Dallas Page versus Ric Flair and Vader. Raw versus Nitro this week, as usual recently, not even much of a competition. Just under 4.8 million viewers for Nitro, slightly lower than we usually have, but it's what it is. Whereas Raw had just under 2 million viewers. Raw was main evented by Owen Hart and The Warrior defeating Yokozuna and Jerry Lawler, which got a 93 rating, surprisingly. And then everything else kind of being really bad stat-wise. So there is that. Another victory for the good guys, if you will. But thank you for watching. Definitely appreciate that. Definitely going to be interesting to see how things play out for sure in the near future as we build to Starrcade and see what happens. Really quick thing of note to show really quick as well, because I might as well show it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this information at all, but I just happened to see it as I was getting ready to do my outro for this video. SMW is in a crisis. Smoky Mountain Wrestling is struggling to keep going at this point, apparently. Smoky Mountain Wrestling is currently about $500,000 in the hole. And they are owned and ran by Jim Cornette. A fair amount of the people on this roster, not fair amount, but at least some of the roster are already WCW guys as it is. Road Warrior Animal, Scott, Brad Armstrong. So, it might be worth looking into. Might not. I don't know. We'll have to see if we maybe want to do something with that. Who the hell knows? Nevertheless, thank you for watching. Definitely appreciate it. And we will catch all of you next week for another episode of Nitro.